Welcome to another episode of Thoughts Podcast. We are not thoughts, but we have thoughts. True, honest opinions towards success. Join us for another candid conversation and valuable insight on achieving success in life and navigating through today's culture. Hosted by myself, Zakira Casado, along with some incredible guests. We're here to explore you on your journey of triumph. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Thoughts Podcast, where we are not thoughts. We just had to get your attention, but we have thoughts. True, honest opinions towards success. I am elated and excited about our next guest that I have to join me on this exciting, beautiful April showers. And this is not an April Fool's, but we have a gentleman that's going to shed a lot of light and focus on the importance of mental health. And of course, we had to bring in a therapist who is from my hometown. And so I'm excited to have him aboard, the one and only Mr. David Anderson, the therapist of all therapists. Good afternoon, David. How are you?
Good afternoon. How are you doing? Thank you for having me.
I am doing well, and I'm excited about having you here. And tell us a little bit about you. Like, I know you're from my stomping grounds, New Jersey.
Yes.
Born and raised. Okay.
Right.
He ain't got to pump his gas.
That's
Take
right.
some notes, other states. But tell us a little bit about you. How did you get into the realm of psychology? How long have you been involved? And just tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, so once again, thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to come on your platform. It's just a blessing. So, how I started. Long story short, as you know, playing for New Jersey, athlete, football, baseball, track. That's all I thought. That's all I slept about, eat, dream about was baseball, football, and track. Moving forward in life, you go through high school, go through college, and you realize that, you know what? Things are not working out the way you want it to be.
Yeah.
And life hits you really quick when you realize those phone calls stop coming and the scouts are not, texting you and we're like, hey, what do you do with yourself? So there I was in that critical time in my life where I had to make a decision to like, okay, I need to give up this dream and pursue something else. In that time, I realized I felt weird. I didn't know what this feeling was, but it was no drive, no purpose. There was nothing that I was looking forward to besides baseball. That's all I did all my life. So I fell into depression. At the time, I didn't know what that was. Just not looking forward to anything, not wanting to be involved in anything, just didn't know what to do with myself. Finally went to a counselor. I was like, hey, look, one of my church friends said you should go to a counselor. So I went there and I was like, I like this feeling to sit here on the couch and discuss my feelings, my thoughts about who I am as a person after baseball. And I like this. Well, I was like, well, there could be a need for other men out there, other women out there who lost their way, their purpose. So I decided to get into therapy. My dad said, try seminary school first. I tried it for one course, wasn't me. So he said, well, just go into your college and just see that, sit in the classroom to see this is what you might like to do. So I did that at UNC Charlotte. And I went back to get my master's.
Charlotte.
That's right. Okay. Didn't have a clue. I was already doubting myself, like, I'm not really that good with, academics and, just barely passed high school and, got my bachelor's. But once again, my past was baseball. So all I did was baseball. But going and sitting in this classroom opened my eyes up to the need for therapy. And I realized after just sitting in this classroom, I was meant to be here. Learning about, anxiety and depression, learning about substance abuse, learning about how our maladaptive thinking, how, we form this cognitive distortion in our minds as time goes on based on our experiences and how this leads to who we are today. It was all fascinating. So I realized that there are other men out there like me who really might need these services, who might look like me. And I realized that in these courses, a lot of professors are saying like, you're a unicorn. Not too many Black men are in therapy. Not too many Black therapists are doing what you're doing. And there's a need for you, young man. And when I heard that, I was like, okay, well, let's move forward. Let's try this.
Yeah.
So I graduated from UNC Charlotte, and what I would say is I changed my stars. All this time, I thought God was calling me to do baseball and sports, but meanwhile, He's calling me to serve a higher purpose, and that purpose was, really giving back and really walking in my purpose.
Yeah.
Helping out, young Black men, young Black women, or really anybody based on my demographics who I serve. But I realized this is my call.
Yeah.
And it's been a blessing ever since. And I love what I do.
I can tell. And I want to just shed some light on a part of your story,
Yes.
which I find interesting because you were in the church and that's when you got the advice of therapy. What do you say to men or women? I don't know why women popped out. Anyway, what do you say to people when they say, or have you ever heard, you just need to go to church, especially in our community? Like when I told my parents I was in therapy, they thought, oh my God, she's going crazy. She is out of her mind. Can you shed some light on the difference of just going to church versus how it really is to see a therapist?
Yes. So when it comes to church, I believe that pastor ministers are they're very knowledgeable on how to work with a person based on their spiritual belief, faith belief. But when it comes to a therapist, we're more trained in to really dive deeper into your mindset, the core belief about who you are as yourself. And that takes time. A minister and a pastor really can't get to everyone. They speak to a crowd, whereas a therapist is more of a one-on-one relationship that we have once a week or twice a week. And we really dive deep and to get to know our client. Not to say that back in the day they didn't do that in ministry, but I think that when it comes to minister and pastors, they're more trained to really go based off of a faith-based approach rather than a scientific evidence approach like cognitive behavior therapy or DBT or solution-focused therapy that we use in our sessions. And we really, we sit down and we really get into the heart about why you are the way you are.
Right.
But not to knock both. I think they're both are needed in our society today. We need to have our spiritual faith, and we need to have what's called our own purpose in life, our mindset, what we decide to make meaningful in our lives. But that's where I would say, as far as, because it gets very tricky because you don't want to knock nobody's faith.
Yeah.
But I like to stay in my lane as far as mental health therapist and just focus on that part of working with my clients. As you know, my dad's a minister too. So I get both sides. My dad, listen to him and how he teaches me about the gospel, but also taking my own approach about how I deal with my clients. Sometimes I do use scripture that might relate to the situations that my client might be in that could help.
Yeah.
So it's all needed though. But go back to your point. I think that the minister and the pastor, they are good for dealing with just faith-based, whereas therapist is more of a one-on-one relationship.
Got you. And so I think that you hit it on a nail when you said there's two different approaches. And I think when people have a fear of therapy, which I have experienced, where people, I don't think I need to go I don't want to go to a therapist. They might think the therapist is going to come and say, this is what's wrong with you, versus really, you can explain the process, but it's really, from my experience, they just help guide you into seeing what you don't see.
Yes, exactly. So in a session, I always tell my clients that I run my office with unconditional love. I have two hats. I have a therapist hat and I have a mentor hat. So the therapist hat is to make sure we're dealing with any kind of negative thoughts, or we call ants, automatic negative thoughts, any kind of maladaptive behavior. How do we treat those the way you process things that has been in a negative way? The mentor hat is to make sure that, especially with adolescents. So my mentor hat comes on. I'm dealing with teenagers who need guidance. So what are you doing in school? How's your grades? Are you drinking? You smoking? Hanging with the wrong crowd? What's your goals look like? What is your purpose in life? How can I help you? Maybe I can resource or support you in that way. So when it comes to a mentor, the session doesn't stop when you walk out my office. I believe that once you build up rapport, if you earn the right, you will get my cell number. And I would text you once, would say, hey, how are you doing? How was our grades looking like? How any classes, you're taking? Are you trying to get financial aid? That's my way of being the mentor.
Right.
So and the office that I have is very laid back, come as you are, approach. I just want to make you feel comfortable. Whereas in therapy, I always tell my clients, you're not here to figure what you know. You're here to figure what you don't know.
Yeah.
So if you come in here already knowing everything, then why are we having a session for? The goal is to make sure we figure out things you don't know about yourself, so that therefore we can figure out what works and what doesn't work. So you have a healthy mindset. The goal is to take the best version of yourself and enhance it, or to take you where you are right now and enhance it. And what that is up to the client, what their needs are, what their goals are. And you're absolutely right. It's not my job to give them the answers. I can guide them to it, but they're the one that have to have that aha moment to be like, oh, okay, now I get why
I do this.
Yeah. So
yeah,
good feeling to have. Sometimes they might cry, they might laugh, like, oh, I didn't think about it that way. So
yeah. What are some things that, because a lot of times for me, I never knew or could put a label on whether or not I was depressed. So, what are some things in which you would say are signs of depression?
So signs of depression could be from a lot of different things. According to the DSM-5, the Diagnostic Statistics Manual 5 we have, that's what we go by. And if you're feeling depressed, it could be just a subtle, like a weight on your shoulders. The things you love to do, you don't want to do anymore. So I have adolescents who love to play video games, they stop doing it. I have people who love to work out, they stop working out. They have no energy. They lack the drive to do anything they love to do. They might gain weight. They might lose weight. They might have thoughts of, and the worst one, thoughts of self-harm. They might have sleeping patterns might be disrupted. They might be irritable. They might have this, just everything is like I call the gray ghost around them.
Yeah.
Okay? That's that depression where you just feel like you don't even want to get out of bed. You don't have the drive to even take care of your hygiene anymore. That's where we're getting to that point of like, okay, this person is maybe depressed.
Yeah. Yeah. So I didn't recognize it, but when I play flag football, I probably shouldn't keep playing at this point, but I had recently got injured last year, and I knew I didn't realize it, because you can not realize it.
Yes.
But I knew it had to be depression, because it was like a week went by, and normally my routine is after you get home, your jersey's sweaty, I would throw it in the washing machine, wash it, and then this one time I looked in my dirty clothes and my jersey was there for almost 2 weeks. So you can imagine how funky it was. But anyway, then it hit me like, I think I need a therapist, because I didn't realize how bad the injury might have affected me, or my thinking and all of that. Like, I can't play anymore, And so those are really good signs, or good things that you mentioned in regards to the signs of depression. So how would you advise people to find a therapist? Like, what did you do when you were like, the person gave you the advice? What did you do to find the person that actually fits you?
So what I did was I humbled myself. First and foremost, I'm not going into this thinking I know everything, because therefore I'm not ready to get the help that I need. First, I would say is humble yourself and know, like, I'm going here because there's something wrong, and what's wrong with me, I don't know. So it's okay not to be okay. That's why you go into a therapist, to figure out what's wrong, what's going on, why are you having this gray cloud over you. The things I love doing, I don't like doing anymore. Why is everything a stress or a struggle? So in order to find a good therapist, make sure that the therapist is very approachable. Make sure it is okay to ask certain questions. You're also interviewing the therapist, but also make sure the therapist is interviewing you too, to make sure that it's a good fit. In my sessions, I always say that I have no ego. If I'm not right for you because of the color of my skin, my nose is too big, maybe I'm too laid back for you, I would still help you find a therapist that will suit your needs. Because it's not about David. This is about you, my client, to help you with the need, to help you get what you need out of these sessions. So that's where I would start, is to make sure you go in with an open mind, humble yourself, and allow the sessions to take place. Give time. If it's not for you, you don't have to stay there.
No, I had to switch a therapist before.
Yeah.
I remember once I went and I felt like, man, I could have went and got a drink. That's how unfulfilled I felt. But a lot of times too, do you think Black people experience certain things that would make it more productive if they found a Black therapist? Or do you think that that's not a factor at all?
It is definitely a factor. In a way, whereas as Black people, we can relate to the struggles in America, in society,
Right.
that other therapists who are not like us can't. Not to say that they can't do the job, not that to say they are not equipped to handle certain situations that we go through, but it's just that it has to be a relationship based. That if a Black man was to come to me or goes to a white therapist, a white female therapist, he might be reserved to share information because already he has that preperception of that she may not understand, so I'm gonna hold back and reserve. Whereas if a Black male therapist and a Black client comes to me, and I'm a Black male therapist, he might already look at my makeup and say, oh, okay, he understands about racist America. He may understand about the Black man's struggles and how misunderstood, misrepresented we are. And therefore the conversation could be a little more organic and we can relate. So that's why I am where I am right now, is to like really be that person where to let people know that, hey, we're here. There are Black male therapists, and we're not all monolith. We're not, not everything has to be by the book. Ethic wise, yes. But to answer your question, I think that yes, race does play a role in finding the right therapist.
I agree, because I remember, and not to knock her, but the lady who I was like, I could have had a drink or just, and she was a white woman, and I just felt like she did not understand my world. So at that point, anyone who I did access for therapy always was someone of my race, because again, there are certain things that I think Caucasian people just will not understand.
Yes.
And so for me, I found more of a benefit when it was a man, and I mean not a man, a black therapist.
Yes.
And what's so funny? One of the things that I learned in therapy was I didn't realize I would gravitate towards male therapists until, and I'll just give example of how they don't tell you about yourself; they help guide you.
Yes.
I have an iPhone and we have Siri, and Siri is a woman by default, and I never understood it, but naturally I would just change it to a guy's voice. And so through therapy, I realized it was my relationship with my mom is why I preferred to hear a man's voice or be trained by a man because of different issues there. Exactly. And so I would have never in a million years. And I remember I had got a female, I was about to fire her in like the first 2 weeks. And then the second one, I'm like, but why am I firing her? And then I think that's when the previous person hit. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be my challenge. Yes. There's no way I would have discovered any of this had I not been in therapy. And that led to so many blessings of very much better relationships with women, all of that. So not to go off on a tangent, what are some things directly in mental health do you think men struggle with that we might not be aware of? It's particularly Black men.
The one thing I see in most of my sessions is to be understood. Black men, to be understood.
Okay.
To be understood. When Black men really start to open up and talk and share, that's a very vulnerable time for them to really express their true emotions, their feelings. And God forbid, if you have a therapist that's really not equipped to handle that, it can be detrimental to that relationship in therapy. What I mean by that is that if I see a black man, a black client in my sessions, and they have been struggling to really just express their true emotions, their true feelings, I always want to know, like, where does this come from? It has always been in this session, or how, like, when did you like started to really shut down and be reserved? And
Yeah.
I like to really get down to the core about what that is, so we could talk about it. But the one thing I like us to go back to is just being understood. They want to be understood. They want to be listened to. Listen would tend to listen would tend to understand and not judge.
Right.
So, and with that being said, you talk about barbershops. So we're going to barbershops, right? That's the thing. We all having a good time talking, chopping it up, but that's all surface level because you don't have that relationship as you would a therapist to really go dive deeper into the way we think, the way we process. So for me, even I'm a black man, if I was going to a therapist, the first thing I would say is like, does this therapist have the capacity to have two perspectives?
Right.
If they don't, then it's like, okay. The reason why I say that is that, do they understand what the black man struggle is in America? Do you understand what the black woman struggle is in America? If you're going to therapy as well, do they really understand the essence of the everyday struggle to be misunderstood, misrepresented,
By
feared
the world.
by the whole world? So this is what I'm trying to do now when I pursue my PhD is what I'm studying. I'm starting to study the psychological and the health ramifications of us going through chronic stress, of feeling misunderstood, misrepresented, and not wanted.
Right.
So have you ever, I'm gonna ask you a question. Have you ever walked into a place? Okay. Have you walked into a place where you just felt like all the eyes were on you and it's just that vibe was like, you know what? I'm not wanted here.
Absolutely. Yeah. I especially moving to North Carolina. Like I've had one experience once when I walked into a restaurant, sat down, and they all turned and looked at me and who I was with.
Mm-hmm.
And literally everything we ordered, she would go back, come back, and tell us they didn't have any more.
Mm.
And so, as small of a thing that some of us, I think Black people have mastered the art of dumbing down trauma because that's a really jacked up experience to have. But when you have many of these experiences on
Yes.
top of trauma, on top of the other things, I think that's why it's important to find someone who is
Mm.
of color because that sounds so back in the day of color, but but because of the fact that those things do come into factor. But how could you even understand that? Because you will never. We are not them kind of people. We're gonna make you feel. Black folks, if it's a black establishment, you're the only black person. We're
Mm.
just not. That's not in our spirit to
Yeah.
make you feel like you're not wanted. We're gonna
Yes.
make you feel like you can even act like even be a part of us.
Yes.
So, I'm not saying it's impossible for it to happen, but it's not likely.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
what are some of the things that you find with women that they have more of an issue with in the realm of your profession? Like when they come, you
Mm.
said men, they
Mm.
want to be understood. What
Yes.
is it with women that you find?
So, as you know, I'm not a woman, I'm a black woman.
I like that disclaimer.
Like I'll put it out there. So I just go based on my experience. Is just that what I've seen is they want to be actually seen. Is but they
Mm,
want to be acknowledged for who they are and not have to conform to what society says they
yeah,
should be. They want to be seen as their authentic selves.
yeah.
And it's very difficult where they have to go to a place, a job, or a function where they have to put on this mask just to fit in, to assimilate. And
Not with
then,
our hair and do
yep,
all this. Yeah.
yep. And sometimes we know when we walk into there, we already know what we are and we know what they think of us. So it's that just putting on that mask. So when you come out of that function, it's like, sometimes you get drained because they feel as though like they've been putting on this this false persona that's not theirs.
Right.
So for them, it's just one to be seen, but also more important than anything, just be respected. Just be
I know all
respected.
my ladies who are watching this are doing the.
Just be, yeah. And I mean, genuinely being respected for the person you are, the woman that you are, for how far you have come, where you're going. Just being respected for just being your authentic self. And a lot of times that gets overlooked because we're always, sometimes we're just constantly focused on superficial things, and social media could be an issue, or it could be an illness or something. But that's just one of the things that I see when it comes to women, especially Black women. They want to just be respected and be seen.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that totally. I think being seen, being my biggest thing for me personally is I think we have been given the title of a strong woman, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes being strong is tiring, always having to be strong. And I think looking back when I do history and studies and research, it's like, it's we had to be, especially in some aspects, to protect our family, because at one point Black men couldn't protect us. They
Yes.
didn't. When they did, that ended up in death. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
so, who wants to see who they love die? But that still doesn't negate the fact of that trauma. Now, my next question is: do you think generationally trauma is passed down? Do you think some of us are still experiencing things from the past that might? Is there a such thing as spillover? Like, oh, remember, like back in the day when
Yes.
7 o'clock your minutes, if you ran them out, they would roll over. Does trauma roll over?
Yes. Oh, yes, it does. General trauma is one of the things that is still alive to this day. Just because what we see out there, whether we see on TV or we experience firsthand about how we are being treated in the streets, how we treat each other. And make a long story short, I have a young Black mother in my office with her son, and the son does not live with the mother.
Mm-hmm.
And she is, every day she goes to bed not knowing what's going to happen because he stays with another family. Mm-hmm. So I had to explain to this young man, like, do you understand why your mom is here today, trying to talk to you about, why it's okay to come home and it's okay. It's not, a big issue. I won't get into why he's not there. I would just say just the fact that just that trauma of her always not knowing, because he is a Black young man out there, how he's perceived. So imagine that mom laying her head down every night, always wondering what's going to happen to her son. Just saying that, she broke down crying. I hit a soft spot where she just had that moment, like, that's what that is. Like, I love my son, no matter whether he's with me or not. I always worry about him. So therefore, I'm going to be extra hard on him to make sure he's doing the right thing. Even when we have parents in the home, make sure, you take the hoodie off, make sure you pull your pants up, make sure you turn the music down. All those things are targets on our back because of what we experience when we do walk out there like that. Right. There's nothing wrong with that. Sagging your pants is not a crime. I mean,
no, but it's an imagery.
But yes, wearing a hoodie over your head is not a crime, but it's, it leads you to be looked at different, targeted. And this is one of the things that parents fear. It's like, oh my God, if it happened to them, when are we next? That constant fear. Whereas a lot of people, a lot of parents, a lot of kids who are not like us don't have to worry about tinted windows and hoodies and wearing certain clothes because of where they're at in society and where their neighborhood is at. So to answer your question, Jewish trauma is definitely alive in 2024. And it's a good
agree. And I have 2 sons, and a lot of people don't understand that that's a conversation you have to have. Like, and unfortunately now my sons are older, not unfortunately, but they get to see it firsthand. Like, I remember I didn't renew my registration, forgot about it. And my son drove my car up the street. Now, mind you, I drive this direction every day. My son is tall, 6'1", locks, Black boy. He wears his hoodies. He wears damn hoodies, even in the But in summertime, I don't get that.
Yes, yes.
And he left to go to the store for me and literally got pulled over.
Mm,
And so when he came home, it's not a conversation you want to have, but it's
yes.
definitely something that you have to have. Like the reason this happened, unfortunately, is because you're a black man. We get some kind of leniency because the feminine energy does work.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten pulled over and
Mm-hmm.
poke my lip out, but they still see you as what it is, right? And
Yes.
unfortunately, even though these things are not true,
Mm-hmm.
there's a conversation you have to have.
You have
Um,
to, yeah, because some other races are not having that conversation. They don't have to. They're the luxury of not having that conversation.
yeah, yeah. I wanted to ask you, when someone gets enrolled in therapy,
Mm-hmm.
how do you know when your job is done? And is
So
it ever done?
yeah, it can be done. Sometimes the conversation can be really, dry. It can be really just there's nothing really there.
Yeah,
As far as that, they come in here, how's it do a check-in? How we doing? How eating, sleeping, anything major stresses going on? But no, Dave, I'm fine. Everything's going good. And over time, what they came in with, struggling with, they now are working on, or they have mastered that anxiety or fear, and they have the tools and skills they need now to work on it or overcome that. So once they're in a place where they're strong, they feel confident in to like go out in everyday life and um, pursue what I want to pursue. That's when I'll make a decision like, okay, well, I've been seeing you for about 3 months now. Do you let's go ahead and like do it from once a week, let's every other week, or once a month. And we get to that once a month part. That's when you kind of like, okay, let's go ahead and start termination process, and um, we'll just you can move on. I'll still be here, but I think sometimes I gotta let you go so you can um, take the tools and skills we developed together and use it out there in the world. Um, and then two, if the relationship becomes really, really, I say really tight, where like, you develop a rapport with this person, even after sessions is over, they become almost like a friend, or they
yeah,
become like your mentor, or you
yeah.
become their mentor really so much. And they just want to keep in touch with you. That's fine. You call me, text me, checking how things are going. Um, and it really all depends between the therapist and the client of where
Yeah,
they want things to end. But the therapist will have to say, "Hey, look, I think you're good." So
yeah,
you have to see me once a week. We could do every other week or once a month, or we can start the termination process.
right.
So
Okay. And do you think a person, and you can ask me any
yeah,
questions,
okay.
open, do you think a person is considered not crazy? Because I think
Mhm.
crazy is, terms that you don't want to throw out there, right? But
Yeah.
if they have to come back, let's say they have this experience,
Mhm.
you send them off, but they like, Dave, I gotta come back. Is
Mhm.
that a sign of that this person has an issue, or more so that they just have a need again?
They have a need again. We all do.
Yeah,
Nobody's going through this life unscathed. There's always going to be challenges that we can't handle on our own. And I champion them to come back. I want them to come back. That lets me know that you are intelligent enough to know that you can't do this on your own, and
yeah,
that there is help here for you. So
yeah,
I always champion the fact that, hey, I'm glad you came back. Let's go back to work. Like Dave ain't going nowhere. I'm here to help you. I'm so proud that you realize that you can't do it on your own. Let's go ahead and readjust some tools and skills so that we can go back out there and you can fix it and once again be the best version of yourself.
okay,
But yeah, there's no such for me. It's not crazy. It's just them being intelligent and wise to know that they need help.
yeah,
Um, and how I do that is I do a lot of teaching in my sessions. So not only do I do therapy, I have a board in my office and I teach, I write, and I have some techniques that we can really work on to really focus on some of the negative thoughts, the toxic behaviors that we are exhibiting, and our support system.
yeah,
I always go back to my support system first. About okay, you come back to me, or it's the first time. Let me figure out like where you at in life as far as your support system. And I have
right.
a way of doing. If you have time, I can show you how I do that, though. But I call that.
Yeah, we have plenty of time. I'm here. My next recording not till a few hours.
Okay. So
Not saying we're gonna be here for 1,000 hours, but you
I
have time.
understand. I understand. Um, but this works for me. And I always tell my clients, or if I have the adolescent who the parents, I always say, do your initial Z.
Okay.
And I said, think of a storm, right? Now, storms, think of hurricanes.
So just to let you know, not to cut you off, my football name is Stormzy.
So, okay, there you go, Storm Z. So this will work good for you. So let's say I put the Z on the board. And you know anything about a hurricane, right? A hurricanes, they have that little spiral.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I always do like a little smaller spot around your initial.
Okay.
And let's always take it like, okay, so this is the storm. Let's say either in our life we create storms or storms come to us. Okay.
Okay.
Um, and when you look at that initial and you got a spiral around your name, that's the eye of your storm. And there
Okay.
we think we're okay because an eye of a storm is what? It's supposed to be clear, right? If you look at
Clear.
the eye of
Yeah.
a storm, but if you look all around you, all you a 360, all you see is devastation. You see dark gray clouds, lightning, everything is destructive. You don't know how to get out of the storm. And you think that you're safe in this eye of the storm because nothing's happened to you right now. But if you stay there, that storm's going to hit you from the back side, the front side, any side. It's going to hit you some. So when you need help, who do you call to? Or if you have somebody in your life and they see you in that storm, who's calling out to you to get you out of that storm?
Right.
If you don't say anything, if you don't have anybody in your life support system, that storm gets bigger. So I draw another spiral. And I draw another spiral. Now, if you know anything about hurricanes, you got a category 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. If you had a category 3, 4, any category really, in those spirals, I draw D for depression, S for stress, A for anxiety. I draw SA for substance abuse, L for loneliness, T for trauma, SA for sexual assault, SA for harm. I just keep going. Each spiral, I'm throwing anxiety, depression, trauma, substance abuse. I'm doing L for loneliness, whatever it may be. V for violence. If you look all around in that storm, something is hitting you.
Yeah.
So if you realize you're in this storm, you call for help. Zara calls for help. You throw a rope outside that storm. Who's the first person to hold on to that rope to pull you out?
Yourself.
No,
Oh, I'm in the storm.
you're in the storm. So I asked the question: if you don't know you're in the storm, or you do know you're in the storm,
Yeah.
when you throw that rope, somebody pull you out. Who's the first person in life to grab that rope?
Probably my kids.
Okay.
They're older. They're not like babies, but I don't like to make them get the rope because that's not really their responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
But when you literally, that's the first thing that come to mind, or my dad.
Okay, so your dad. So when you're in the storm, I'm talking about this storm is like it's really messing you up. Like you can't see anything clear. You don't know how to get out of the storm. When you throw that rope for somebody to help you out the storm, the first person calling is your dad.
And I love him, but he doesn't have the equipment internally to hear my emotions as much as my therapist does.
Yeah.
So when he can't help me, that's when I'm like, I need to find somebody.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
and that's okay too. This is how we work on our support system. So if I have a client who don't know they're in a storm, or they do know, they just need some help, some guidance, support.
Mm-hmm.
They throw that rope outside that storm, like metaphoric, throw the rope outside the storm. Somebody grabs that rope, they'll say, my mom. I'll say, mom's holding onto that rope. She ain't letting you go. She's your baby. She ain't letting you go.
Right.
Guess what? She's only mom. She needs help because now you're in the category 3 or 4, and all around you is depression, anxiety, self-harm, trauma. This is a big storm. Who else you calling? They'll say, oh, my uncle, my dad. Okay.
I'm sorry? I said Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters, right? So when I'm drawing this on the board, I'm doing a stick figure pretty much because I can't draw. But I said, you got mom, you got dad. Let's say you got your best friend. Usually, David, I should be the last person to grab that rope.
The therapist?
The last, but why? Because I just come into your life. This is what I do
But
for all my.
what if you are the only person?
Then that's where we got work to do. See, that's the part where I have clients where I'm the only person to grab that rope. When I get you tomorrow for the first time, and I do that circle, and I put your name in that storm, and I ask that person, who grabs that rope? They'll say you. And I just look at them for a minute because that's where we have to be like, it hurts. No.
Yeah, like that's making me. I'm like really struggling right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
When my eyes are like starting to water, I'm like, not these lashes,
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
not on film.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm sorry to make you feel that way. It's just one
No,
of those
no, no.
things
This
that
is great. No, this is
yeah.
great. If it's making me
It's
feel
just
that way, I'm sure it's going to do that to the people listening. So
yeah. And so that's the thing I try to explain is like for us to go further in our first sessions, I try to establish a support system. Like what's your background looking like, family history, but also illustrate that storm. When you're going through something in life, who's helping to pull you out that storm?
yeah,
Or if you know you're in the storm, who's grabbing that rope for you when you throw it out there first? If it's me first, and I got you, and you're 30 years old, 20 years old, I'm the only person who got that. Then I'm like, okay, well, first, I want to cry, but like, wow, like you're that lonely, like nobody in your life you could depend on. I just walked into it as your therapist. I don't even know you. I'm getting to know you, and you calling me to grab the rope first. So, one, it means a lot to me, but also it means that I'm going to be sure that I get the person help that they need.
yeah,
So I don't want to steer this person wrong and let them know that they're alone. I'm going to abandon them.
yeah,
So, but it goes to show you how much of a need for therapists are when you grow and grab that rope and they say, well, David, you're number one or number two. So I have some clients where it's their mom, their dad, and then I'm the second one.
yeah.
And some of them are adolescents, 13, 14, 15-year-old kids.
Well,
So,
when they're younger, wouldn't it be more realistic for it to be mom, dad, therapist because of their peers? They haven't grown versus someone who's like 30, 40, who's like, damn, I don't have nobody.
yeah, so it definitely hits home when you're a lot older. If you have nobody because you experience life, you or experience life a lot longer, you should at least have someone that's close to you before you get to me. When it comes to 13, 14-year-olds, you would like to have mom and dad, but just because mom and dad in the house or around doesn't mean that they're equipped.
Yeah.
Mean that they can take
Very much so.
Yeah.
A lot of our parents aren't, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, if you've ever heard, why did I get a whooping? Because why you're saying it's because I said so. That's not emotionally, but they didn't know.
No.
At one point, if you're an 80s baby, they used to have commercials. Have you seen it's 10 o'clock? Do you know where your children are?
Yeah,
Why do y'all have to have this commercial?
Yeah.
Anyway.
That honestly, I wish they brought it back because that's
now they need it. Now they really do need it. Because we knew we was going to get our behinds whipped if we didn't get in the house by before 10 o'clock,
Yeah.
So
it's just one of those things that it's a soft spot when I have a lot of those young adults in my session that really they're struggling to find that support system. If they do have mom and dad, that's great. Cousins, brothers, that's great. But it's the ones that really don't have anybody that I have to have a little TLC with, little care, because I want to make sure that when they're going through their storms and battles, that they have somebody to fall on and not resort to self-harm,
right,
or any kind of substance abuse. So I do my job to make sure that I establish a safety plan with them if I'm the first person to grab that rope, or even second.
Right.
Yeah.
So, David, how do you prefer Dave or David?
Don't matter.
Okay.
Dave is fine.
Okay, Dave, what are your thoughts on how social media affects our mental health?
Right now, I would say that'd be hypocrite. I got social media, Facebook, Instagram, and I think Snapchat, really for my daughter, make funny faces, but I would say it is really doing a disservice to a lot of the youth right now because everything is so superficial, everything is instant, to a point now whereas this attention seeking has overtaken their way of developing. Everything has to be instant and now everything has to be a gotcha or an aha moment, or it has to be like, let me sell my dignity, let me sell my morals, my values, just for attention,
For a like.
just for a like. And like right now in society is the currency. Attention
Yeah.
is the currency, and that's the addiction that I see with a lot of people in my sessions that I have, that they don't care what it is as long as you get the attention.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a
And
lot of pressure on younger kids, especially women.
mm,
You know, they have this imagery of what a Instagram model or whatever, and
yeah,
they resort to things. And like even me, I know if I was to show my body more, I may get a little bit more likes. But I feel like at the end of the day, we have to remember nothing is it's forever when it go. Even if you delete it, because somebody could have screenshot it, screen recorded it,
mm,
it's forever. I think people forget, and you
yeah,
will get older at some point. But I could see that the validation, the attention seeking, and all of that.
yeah. And I see where it might come from too, because once we get into sessions from some of these clients, I understand why they do that.
Why?
It could be because of home life. It could be because of bullying. It could be
Yeah,
because of a lot of self-esteem issues. And some of them have been introduced to social media so young. Now their self-image is destroyed. Now it's
yeah,
like, well, I don't look like this girl on Instagram, so therefore, what's wrong with me? Therefore, maybe I'm not good enough.
yeah.
Nine times out of 10, yeah, I have clients who their core belief is I'm not good enough because I don't look like them.
Yeah. My sons are 21. Oh my God. And my youngest will be 20. I can't believe I'm freaking saying that. But anyway, and when they were growing up, I allowed them to have one, not all. That was my rule. And if you do have one, I have to have access to it
Yes.
because so much was going, you can't monitor everything, but I think because I personally probably wouldn't have social media if I wasn't in business, if I'm being
Yes.
honest. And, but I understand it and try my best to be the light,
Mhm.
to put things out there that would really help people to go to the next level of their life or really be a source of good stuff. But my other question is this, because you brought up bullying. And a lot of these kids I see, especially the youth, they see something online. Let's say someone calls a girl ugly. Now, like you said, she has a poor self-image.
Yes.
They get to the point of self-harming themselves. But back in the day, you could get picked on, and were the things and the tools which reinforce you. I was bullied as a kid. And
Mhm.
when I was bullied, when I remember the triumphant moment of standing up to my bully, right? Why do you think it's such a difference today where how come a lot of people don't see it? Is you think I'm wondering if it's because it's online and it's virtual and it's not tangibly real, but it's real. Can't say it's not real because a lot of kids have hurt themselves because of this. Why do you think that is though? Why do you think in the past
Mhm.
that was just a part of life and that's how you kind of grew your like I remember when I beat her name was Crystal in
Mhm.
Middlesex, New Jersey. She threw a I hate being cold. She threw me a snowball, hit me in the back of the head, and it made me
Mhm.
mad. I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
Damn it! I went home. I said, Mom, this girl punched me in the face. She said, did you win? I
Yeah.
said, yes. She said, good job.
There you go. And here's the thing: what you just said, that story is what a lot of adolescents, a lot of kids lack.
Yeah, like I
The
don't
parents.
where did we lose that tenacity
It's
to want to,
mhm.
but I don't know if it's because it's virtual.
It's well, bullying is bullying, whether it's virtual or whether it's in your face.
Yeah.
But I do know when it comes to the bullying online, once you put it out there, yeah, it's out there. But the reason why a lot of it goes, a lot of this bullying is happening is because when they do get bullied at a young age, if they do go to someone and say, "Hey, I was bullied," the question now becomes: are the parents listening to why they're being bullied,
You
or
know
is it
what
just
though?
or is it just, oh, it's okay, shake it off, or just like, you gotta understand something, that some of these kids never been bullied before. This is the first time. And not to
Yeah.
mention, if they grew up in a household where they have been told that they're good enough, then already that just adds more of this negative thought. Like, nobody told me I was pretty, smart, strong, brave, beautiful. Therefore, here I come across these bullies telling me that I'm ugly, not smart. It just magnifies
What
already
it
what I
was.
already thought of
Yeah.
myself.
And I just thought about it as you was talking, the difference. I think the fact that online it's a lot more eyes, it's embarrassment on top of the bullying and the
Mhm.
humiliation to the world,
Yes.
versus when you had to go to school, you had to face one person, and then
Yes.
if it was 10 or 5 people around who witnessed him bullying, but
Mhm.
most of the time the bully was like private, where
Mhm.
now if I'm online it's amplified because all
Mhm.
these other people get to see what you said about me.
Yes. And
And I
now, okay, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Now you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. Now your anxiety levels through the roof. Now you're
Yeah.
panicking. Now you're looking over your shoulder. And now every eye
Yes.
looks at you. You're wondering, you're like, oh my God, did they read what was said about me? And now they don't want to go to school now. And now all of
Yeah.
a sudden they just fall into this chronic stress that leads to depression.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if they can't get out of that, it's leading to even worse uh, way of living. So about the bullying, it's still here.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's not going anywhere. But I
No.
will say that if my daughter was to come to me and say, "Dad, I'm being bullied," I don't want to. I don't want to take my age, who I am right now, and tell her, "Oh, you'll be fine. Just do this."
Don't do
You
that.
understand? I tell parents, like, wait a minute. This person is 15 years old. All they know how to be is 15.
Yeah.
They haven't developed, their brain yet. They got 10 more years of
Yeah.
development, cognitive development. So we can't tell them to be 30 or 40 at 15.
Yeah.
We'll lose them. We
You
gotta
will lose them.
understand, put ourselves in their shoes at 15, be like, okay, I know it's like to be 15, being bullied, and I know how this feels. Let me really talk to you and explain to you how we go about doing this. And let me understand a way where a 15-year-old will understand, not
Yeah.
where a grown adult will try to tell a 15 what they should do. So a lot of parents be like, that makes sense. I always tell my kid that, oh, just do this, do that. That's hindsight. We get it because you've been there before.
Right.
Your kids haven't.
Right.
So when they come
Remember
to
that, parents.
you,
Sorry.
so when they come to you, this is a vulnerable time where they're telling you, like, look, I'm not okay. I'm
Right.
not okay today, and what has happened to me is really traumatizing, and I need help. I need to go with the people that I love and trust with the situation. And if they violate this trust and me being vulnerable to them, and they just mix me off, now I shut down. I'm never going to trust you because you're not listening with intent to understand. You're listening just to tell me what to do and not really take out my feelings, my emotions, where I'm
Right.
at right here and now, not where you was when you was in high school 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah. It I think I always give a book
Mhm.
recommendation, and I've probably given this 3 times, but this book called The Secrets of Happy Families
Mhm.
changed the way I raise my sons completely. Like, it really expresses the emphasis on communication with children and
Yes.
reminding you that you were once a child, and
Yes.
there's no way for them to know already, because they just got on the planet and that's your job.
Yeah.
Parenting is a verb.
You're right. You're right. They didn't ask to
So
be here. So
right. And so because you're their guide and you learn, so we used to have like family meetings. That's what they talk about in the book also. Like,
yes.
I still have my like packs of all the weeks, and that moment when we have our meetings, you had an open space to communicate and say things
Mhm.
that you wanted to do. And I learned that all from that book. And
Yes.
I promise you, it goes a long way for a child to be heard. Because there's many times I can, like, as you were talking, 4 different incidents popped in my head from when
Mm.
I would wanted to have a I needed to have a conversation. Not that I just wanted, I
Yes.
needed the conversation as a kid. And,
Mhm.
you know, they just didn't have the equipment. That's how I look at it. They just didn't have the equipment to
Yes.
really allow that space where, for example, like and I think I said this on my last show. I remember back when women my age got their cycles, the women would be like, "Oh, they're going to be a fast ass," and you're like, "Don't be
Mhm.
a fast," instead of really taking the time and actually explaining what this means. Now, would that
Yes.
have changed whether I had my kids so early? Because
Mhm.
I had both of them, me and their dad. I was 19, he was 20, no,
Mhm.
21, I think he was. And, but if I was explained
Mhm.
a little bit more in detail, maybe I would have waited. Maybe I would have done things differently. But
Yes.
it was almost like, don't go over there. But what happened in Lion King?
Hmm. Yes.
Don't go to the graveyard. I'm a
Yeah.
kid. Of
Yeah.
course I'm going to the graveyard.
Of course. Right. The curiosity, right? I got you now.
and
So,
and honestly, our brain don't even understand do not.
mhm.
It doesn't register. So if you say, like now, do not think of a purple fish with green stripes. You're gonna think of it. You're gonna
Yes.
your brain don't even see that. So
Mhm.
I totally agree with you. I feel like remembering the fact. I think that was a
Mhm.
key point.
Mhm.
Please, parents, remember that they are kids. They don't
Yes.
know. They don't
Yep.
know what they don't know.
They don't know what they don't know. They may be bigger than you, taller than you, but at the end of the day, they are just kids.
Yeah,
You know.
both of my kids are definitely taller than me.
Yeah.
Like
They just.
I look at them like,
Yeah.
who are you? How did
Yeah.
you? Anyway,
And
so go ahead.
no, I'm sorry. No, I was saying you're right on. Like, guys, I'm not that tall either. So I always see these kids like, wham, like, even I have insecurities. I'm like, I wish I was your height. Woo. So,
Right. How many do you have?
so I only have one. I have one. I have a 2-year-old.
Oh,
And
baby, you
yes,
started late,
yeah,
David.
yeah, 2-year-old. Well, like
You
I
gotta
said,
stay in shape.
it took me a while because, like I said, my goal was all baseball and um, but some say, "Oh, well, why are you having kids so late?" Because I just now found my purpose. I'm walking my purpose where I feel comfortable now and start a family,
I love that
and
though.
that's I can actually anything. I'm blessed. So,
It's a blessing to wait because
mm,
when even though I can't change it anyway, you
mm,
literally have to grow up versus like and I was very blessed to have good people. I hung out with older people, read a lot, those type of
mm,
things to give them what I didn't have,
yes,
right? But when you're able to, because I would even consider it, I know that sounds absolutely insane, but if the situation was right, I'm getting married, all this stuff, I would consider it again
mm,
because of what I know now. I can imagine
yes,
what my boys are great. They are like
mm,
dope boys. Like I'm very proud of them. But if I could give them this now, back
mm,
then, oh my, I wouldn't be surprised if that was Barack up there. You know what I'm saying?
yes,
Not saying that they're
yes,
not doing well, but
yes,
I'm saying that I couldn't imagine at the age that I'm at, the wisdom that you get,
mm,
and there's never not a bad time.
yeah, yeah. Just my goal is to plant the seed.
Yeah.
Um, as long as tomorrow's not promised. And I have too many clients that, I kind of wish I could adopt them all. The adolescents, the
Oh,
teenagers, and
geez. Is that where your
uh,
heart is?
yeah, well, because those are the ones who gravitate towards me because, this is new for them. Coming to
Mhm.
therapy, experience, talking about their feelings, their emotions, their experiences, how they process it in a healthy way. Whereas adults, they live a bit longer, so they kind of understand exactly.
Yeah,
It's not really a long, drawn out process. When it
right.
comes to the young ones, a lot of rapport building. I
Yeah,
have to trust them. They have to trust me with this personal information and not think that I'm going to take the information and plaster it on Instagram or Facebook. And that's not how that
right.
works. So that's the reason why when we had that rapport, you'd be surprised at how much trauma gets just dumped on. And I got to take, the most severe one and just work on that first. And
Right.
once I do that, you're human. You're going to
Yeah.
feel for some of these kids. You're going to feel what they've gone through. And if they gravitate towards you with like, you know what? You're not my therapist. You're like my guardian angel. You're like, Uncle Dave. I'm like, all right, hey, look, in a session, you call me what you want to call me. So,
Right.
but that's just a good feeling to have, to plant the seed of hope, to plant the
Yeah.
seed of, if nobody told you that they're proud of you, what Dave will say it first. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for showing up, putting the work in. I'm proud of you coming into sessions and really working on your craft, and you leave my office, you're still working. I'm proud of you. And also at the end of the day, Dave loves you.
Yeah.
And um, they'll shed a tear. I'll shed a tear too because we're human. But
Right.
it's of their rapport.
So, Dave, I want to take a little shift
Yeah.
in areas of psychology that, and
Mhm.
you tell me if it's something that you can speak on, because I've noticed a lot in the words can be tossed around,
Yes.
right, very loosely. And a few words I wanted to bring up to get your perspective or definition of it, and knowing if it's happening. And I know this affects men and women and just humans, period, whether you're black, brown, or blue.
Yes.
And so a lot of terms, and I don't know if you've experienced this, but a lot of the terms that I've always constantly hear is like gaslighting, narcissism, NPD, borderline personality. What's your thoughts on what is your thoughts on the area of personal disorders? Like, how do you find if that, are you familiar? First, are you familiar with that area, like personal, literal personality disorders?
Um. No. Well, yes, and I'm not a master at it, but gosh, I like to stay in my lane. So
Yeah.
I only focus on things that I'm familiar with. So any kind of like borderline personality disorder, any kind of disorders that I've usually work with will be the ones that are like, hmm, because like I said, my goal is that, for example, I have some clients who are autistic.
Okay.
Okay. Now I always put a disclaimer out there. I'm not trained in that, but I'll do what I can until we find the right therapist for you. Okay.
Right.
So I always say, if that's not my forte, I'm not going to touch that, but I'll do what I can to work with some clients. But as far as personality disorders, you got to be very careful because you don't want to misdiagnose, and you always want to follow that DSM-5 that we go with, and that's how we determine whether or not we want to go ahead and diagnose a client who have any kind of personality disorders. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, it all depends on when you're doing the assessment, where they at, how they're thinking, where situation it is, and then you determine whether or not you're going to diagnose them with, according to DSM-5.
Yeah.
I say that because it would be disingenuous of me to just have my own imperial data, my own experience, be like, oh yeah,
You as a narcissist.
yeah, yeah, narcissist, you're not listening, you're, all kind of things, you're, all these disorders. No, no. Because like I said, once
So
again, it's not about my personal belief. It's about what I'm exhibiting in my sessions to determine whether or not this person meets this criteria.
yeah. And but isn't it true, like people with strong personality disorders won't really go to a therapist? Like I read once, like a true narcissistic person, or someone with, well, tell me if I'm wrong about this, but someone who's narcissistic. No, no, no. All of us have narcissism in us, narcissistic traits, rather.
Mm-hmm.
From what I've read, I don't know if this is true, but they say we all have levels of it. Your level. Oh, what kind of dog do you have?
Oh, I'm sorry. I have a pit bull. I'm home
He's
today, so that's why I'm in my office. So I apologize for about that.
so big. Anyway,
Yeah, it's a pit bull. It's a 130-pound dog. So
yeah,
it's
he
just,
sounds like it, because I'm like, now I'm curious. I've
yeah.
been wondering, if not to go off on a tangent, if I want to get a dog since anyway.
Yeah, I apologize about that. So
No,
yeah,
you're fine. You're fine. This is live, so it's, well, not live, but you get what I mean.
yeah.
Anyway, so they say like we all have narcissistic traits, but it just depends on if you're a 10, you harm people because of it.
That's malignant narcissism. Those are the ones that will cause harm if it means benefiting their agenda. If you're going to embarrass me or make me feel less than what I already think I am, then I have to do all I can to take you out. I'm going to harm you. I'm going to put you in a situation that's going to just cause this a violent act towards you. That's malignant narcissism.
Mm-hmm.
As far as, it's like 4 types, but I do follow a doctor, Dr. Romani. I don't know if you know who she is.
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry, I shouldn't be that excited about
No, because she's like, yeah, I guess I would love to meet her. She's not Steve, but she is the the
the
guru, the
narcissistic
narcissist.
queen,
Exactly.
MPD queen.
Exactly. I follow her and I read her stuff and her podcasts and but that's where that with the malignant narcissism comes in, where they like to cause something, they do harm to you.
Yeah. Mentally or physically. It can be mental or physical.
It can be mental or physical, yeah, verbal abuse, physical abuse, anything to have power over you to make themselves feel powerful or type of dominance.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I might be a magnet.
A magnet.
I'm magnet because I'm like, it's either me, either I'm the narcissist or I am a magnet because, anyway, I won't go there. But anyway,
you have all
there's a relationship between someone with MPD and a person who is very empathic or I don't know the other word because empathic. I don't know. Is that even a psychological word? Empath.
Empath.
Yeah. Is that just?
Yeah, empath. Yeah, very intuitive to your thoughts, your feelings, your spirits. All. That's what my wife says I am. She said your superpowers. You're very empathic. You absorb the people's feelings and emotions. There's another
like
reason
your
why.
own, and it can be stressful.
Yeah, so it could be stressful. So this is what I do. You ever hear of it's called not to get off track, but you ever hear method actors?
Method actors? No.
A method actor is someone who takes on the character they're trying to portray.
Okay.
You ever hear that Jim Carrey?
Yes.
And that movie he played where he played that what's that guy's name?
I know who you're talking about. The comedian, and he literally walked around and became him.
Yeah, Andy Kaufman.
Yes, Andy. And he wouldn't let nobody call him Jim Carrey. I actually watched this documentary on Netflix.
Yes.
And he made people call him Andy, and he actually acted like Andy.
Yeah. And it takes that's like a method actor or acting. Well, you got Johnny Depp does a great job. Daniel Day-Lewis does a great job of method acting. They take on the role.
Or so like the guy who passed away, who played Joker, the one who actually died.
Heath Ledger, yes. So you have to be very careful. Yeah, you have to be careful. And so what I try to do is like for me to not let up in the sessions to make I'm staying focused, I like to use a little bit of called method therapy. So I like to really submerge myself into my clients' experiences, emotions, to a point where like I want to feel what they feel, so I understand how I can help them.
Right.
I don't want to make it feel like I'm just here 9 to 5. Just let me hear your thoughts. Okay, here go tools and skills. I really want to feel what they feel, so that therefore I know that keeps me in tune. It keeps me engaged with my client. And that's where we have the connection.
Yeah.
And what I do is after the session, I tell myself out of that. You gotta come out of it. But that's just how I work. Every therapist is different.
Yeah.
But just to just feel what they feel and to really, grab them by the hand. And while they're explaining their traumas and triggers in the past, I want to be right there with them and know what that felt like. What were you wearing? What did you see? What was what was going on? What kind of smell was it back then? So really be absorbed in what their experiences is, so that I can let them know that I'm right here with you, and we go back into their past, the traumas, and reshape and reframe what it was that they saw, and make sure that there's no guilt or shame, especially if a trauma has happened to you.
Right.
So that's what
See, I don't know if I'm a how do you say it?
Malignant.
Yeah,
malignant narcissist.
No, not that. Not that. Would you say the actors, the type of actors?
Oh, method actors.
Method?
Yeah, method, like Method Man.
Okay, method. Okay, I'm making sure that I'm hearing it right. Yeah, method. So I don't know if I'm a method person.
Yeah. Well, no, that's what I use. That's what I use. I just come back, like I said, that's just what I try to use, like to make it.
But it would make sense for you because that's your profession, Yeah,
like so, be empathic. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you deal with the going back to the male in therapy, mental health in men, what's something that you would like the world to be clear on when it comes to men's mental health? or you like to shed light on that's just
Yes.
not
Both. Yeah.
something that is been said enough or ever been said?
Well, yes. Take it very serious. Um, and allow yourself some grace.
Mm.
That's the key word that I tell all my men. When you come into this session, it's unconditional love. You know you better than I know you. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things whereas we have to develop a bond, a rapport, and allow yourself some grace. You know, like nobody goes this life, perfect or unscathed, and it's going to be trial and tribulations. But if you can allow yourself some grace to know that, hey, I'm not strong every day. I'm not okay every day.
Yeah.
And that's
That's
okay.
okay. Yeah.
That's okay. And just to make therapy what you make it.
Yeah.
You come in here and know that this is a safe place. Nobody's here to judge, harm you, hurt you. Even if you did something that was wrong, my goal is not to focus on what you did wrong. It's, well, how can we come out of it? You already know what you did wrong. I'm not going to spend 3 weeks on, the wrong stuff. I want to spend 3 weeks or whatever it takes on how can you make it better, find a solution. So when it comes to men's health, I would say allow yourself some grace, humble yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay to come in it's okay to come in broken.
Yeah.
It's okay to, share whatever kind of thoughts or feelings you may have that you're going through with someone you trust, and make sure you develop a rapport and make sure that this therapist has the best interest for you.
That makes sense. And what's one of the misconceptions you would say in regards to men and mental health?
That somehow me going to therapy means I'm weak.
I shared one time on this podcast that there was a point. Thank God it didn't take me long because my sons. I think I were blessed to have 2 sons, specifically sons, because I come from such a dominant woman-led family. But I used to think if they cried, that was a form of weakness. Not my kids, but my kids made me look at men generally differently. And then the process of realizing, a lot of times we don't realize this as women, that when, especially if you have boys, if you have sons, it's like you can't also be mad and throw dirt towards the father, because that imagery of him is not of you. His first image is of his father. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Or he's the first example of a man, whether good, bad, or indifferent. That's his first sign, and you can never be a man. But it took me a while to get to, a couple years, not too long. Of
So I would say allow yourself some grace, right? Because back then, you know?
No, I didn't know. Yeah. And I don't feel bad about it now, because when you know better, you do better.
Exactly.
You know better, you do better.
And that's the thing. But yeah, never. I would tell men, never feel like something's wrong with you because you're going to therapy. Never feel like that you're broken or that you're weak. It actually makes you strong to acknowledge and be honest with yourself that, you know what, I don't have all the answers, and where I'm getting the answers from is not working out for me. So I need to go somewhere where I need to figure out, why am I thinking this way? Why are my feelings are causing my behaviors to produce negative results?
Right.
And once I get sick and tired of doing this, then I have to humble myself and go somewhere, get the help I need, whether that could be to a church or it could be to a therapist. I would recommend a therapist if you want to figure out your cognitive distortions, meaning that what are you thinking about in your mind that's distorted? If you see something that triggers you, why do we tend to grab the liquor bottle? If we see something that triggers you, why do we have to fight? If you see something that triggers you, why do we have to come out of ourselves and make a spectacle of everything, and we have to magnify it? Or why do we have to lie about something? Why do we have to project something that's not there? And this is where in therapy we work on that. What's causing your distortion in your mindset to do this? And we get to the bottom of that.
That's truly, if you break down the word responsibility, it's your ability to respond to self. Like that's really taking responsibility. That's all kept coming in my head when you kept saying all these different things. Like, why do you do this?
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is so powerful. I remember recently I was in a room full of girls and I was the only one who ever had a fight. And I was like, well,
Mm-hmm.
damn, maybe I'm toxic, But coming from Jersey, from where we're from, it's not
Yeah.
that hard. It's
Yeah.
especially in high school. Most of this was in my 20s, it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
like, early 20s. I kind of grew up fast, but, and being a mother so young, it was like, yeah, you can't be out in these streets doing this. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Not that I would say I wasn't a bully. I was the bully fighter.
Bully
Yeah.
fighter.
Yeah, I was in my head, like the superhero
Yeah.
Anyway,
That's
so, well, first of all, Dave, thank you so much for this, coming on and really shedding light on men's mental health. I just have a few more questions.
okay.
And
Well, thank you.
yeah, my only other question, do you have any specific books or your favorite book or something you would recommend in regards to that?
Yeah. So there's a few books. My favorite author is Andy Andrews.
Oh,
Um, I'm reading a few. It's called The Noticer. Also, another book I'm reading right now is called Battle Cry by Jason Wilson.
okay. Not that I can't go back and just,
Mhm.
anyway. Jason.
Um, yeah, and another one is it Battle? Another one is Cry Like a Man, or is it Jason Wilson? I have so many. One with Andy Andrews, but I just got into Jason Wilson's books and reading
Mm,
about Battle Cry. Another one I like to read is Chris Voss. That's Never Split the Difference. So for
I know about
therapists,
Chris Ross.
yes, yes. And just to focus on, I like the problem solving aspect of his book about really getting down to the problem. We call that calibrated questions, and getting down to
Mm,
the problem with the what demonstrates the problem, the how demonstrates the solution. And I use that technique sometimes in my sessions when a client's having a hard time figuring out what their problem is, with a lot of what question, open-ended questions, and focus on how. Well, how did you get out of it? How did you overcome this? How did
yeah.
it, like to make them really get their mind working? And yeah. So when it comes to books, I like to read pretty much, like I said, Andy Andrews. The reason why I notice her because it's about a character named Mr. Jones. And he's like this mythical, man that goes around town who really drops a lot of knowledge. And some of it is, historical facts. Some of it is just faith-based. But it really resonates with me about how Mr. Jones carries himself and how I see myself in Mr. Jones and how I'm just just reaching out to the community and just being there when they're in need, whether that's helping them with gardens or just talking to somebody who's, feeling lonely, just always there at the right time. That's Mr. Jones.
So this is, you can diagnose me if I have ADHD, because the song that's playing in my head right now is "Me and Mrs. Jones," even though
No,
it's Mr. Jones.
yeah, no. It's but think about it. But that's what you remember as Mr. Jones is the song. So
Yeah,
no, that's not ADHD.
that's my
Um,
intrusive thoughts. I'll
yeah,
always have music when someone says
yeah.
something. It's like it'll pop up.
That's
Okay, so
good.
last but not least, I want
Yes.
to get into our quote of the week.
Okay.
And when you read this, what comes to mind? Quote of the week is, "Your struggles do not define you."
That you are not your problems. Your problems are temporary when you decide to act on them. The moment we decide not to come out of our struggles, then we are choosing defeat. We are choosing to be a victim of our struggles. So I like to say that, I like that quote too. I use that in my sessions, that your current circumstances doesn't define you.
Right.
So yeah, your struggles do not define you. So where you are right now struggling is not where you're going to be 10, 5, 15, 20 years from now.
Unless you sit and do the same thing.
Unless you sit. So exactly. If you sit and do the same thing and have the same thinking, you're not going to get anywhere. That's what Albert Einstein said. He said, we cannot use this thinking. We cannot use the same thinking that caused the problem now to solve it.
Yeah. He also said that doing the same thing in the same way and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity.
Exactly.
If you don't want to go crazy,
Yeah.
change your brain.
Yep.
But definitely, Dave, it's been incredible sitting here. And I still have thousands of questions. I can talk about psychology and therapy all day.
Yes.
Um, and how can someone get in touch with you? If they wanted to try out therapy with you, can they use virtual as well as in person? Oh, let me ask you that last question. Do you think there's a difference or no?
In virtual?
Virtual versus in person.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. A definitely difference. I mean, they're both effective because you still get me, but it's nothing like having that one-on-one presence.
Yeah.
So I can really read your body language. I can really pinpoint where your eyes are going,
Yeah.
your hands move. So that all plays a role as a therapist, especially for me, to see your body language when I say certain key phrases or you start talking and your hand is shaking. And I'm like, okay, I got you now. I'm going to pinpoint that word in my brain. Compared to virtual, I can only see from maybe like chest up. So I don't know what your feet are doing right now. I don't know, but I can still.
I'm cold. No.
Yeah, exactly. It could be that, but I will still point it out.
Yeah.
You know, I'll put you on the spot to challenge you. So, but both are effective though. But I do prefer, if it's up to me, one-on-one.
Okay. And you're still in the New Jersey area, correct?
No, I'm in North Carolina.
I'm in North Carolina.
Yeah, I'm in North Carolina.
Oh, I thought you went back. Maybe I missed that part of the story. What part of North Carolina are you in?
So I live in the Cornelius area in North Carolina, about 15 minutes from Charlotte.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm in the RDU, Raleigh, Durham area.
Okay.
So that's like 3 hours.
Yeah,
I'm actually headed that way tomorrow, but that's what's up. So if you guys want to get in touch with David, he's out of the Charlotte area. You can send me the information when the show airs. I'll make sure that it's in whatever way that you want them to communicate. I'll make sure it's in the description.
Okay, I appreciate it.
So any last words that you want to say in regards to mental health, anything that you might have forgot, or you're like, dang, I wish I would have said this, or.
I mean, so I would say when it comes to your mental health, it's a work in progress. We're all work in progress. And the meaning of life is to give your life meaning, make your life meaningful. So people ask, Dave, what's the meaning of life? It's to make your life meaningful, which means that you are responsible. Yeah.
That is going to be our quote of the week for the next guest. I love that.
And I'm an existentialist, and I work with existential therapy. So what I do with people who have life crisis, because I've been through that after baseball, not knowing, finding my purpose. The meaning of my life is to make my life meaningful. And that's for me to decide. So therefore, my happiness is internal. My purpose is internal. So I am responsible. I'm controlled. I'm holding myself accountable to make my life meaningful how I want, when I want, because I'm in control of that. Yeah. So that I will leave you with that. As far as existentialism, maybe next time we'll get into that, but that's a whole other topic.
I would love to have you back for sure.
Yeah, another topic about how I break that down, because there are 4 types about existentialism crisis and how we work on that. But that'll be my quote: to make your life meaningful, a meaningful life, you want to definitely. How can I put? I'm sorry. The meaning of life is to make life meaningful. That's
right. Absolutely. Well, Dave, we would love to have you back, because now I'm like, what's the 4 things? Yeah. And how do you say it? Say it again.
Existential.
Okay.
Existential therapist. So, real quick, the 4 things is loneliness, emptiness, free will, and death.
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 DEATH. Death.
Yeah, death.
Loneliness. Death. Free will. Emptiness. Okay, I couldn't even read my own handwriting.
Emptiness.
Okay.
And death. Yep.
You gotta come back. now, Dave, because now I'm like,
yes.
But definitely, We'll plan that for sure. We would love to have you back, and thank you so much for your time. I'm sure that this is going to bless some people, and it will air in a few weeks. And definitely anybody who is looking for a good Black male therapist, shout out to you for being out there as a beacon of light for people of, I'm not going to say people of color again because that's so outdated, but not just Black people, but all people. But definitely, it's an area I think we need more of us.
Yes.
And so, kudos to you. Thank you for your thoughts. And until next time, guys, love, peace, and hair grease. We'll be back soon. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Thoughts Podcast, True Honest Opinions Towards Success. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and don't forget to leave us a review, share your thoughts in the comments, and your reviews literally help us to improve and create content that resonate with you. Until next time, love, peace, and hair grease. Bye.